Have you ever wondered about what the best practices are for photographers when it comes to getting yourself seen and noticed on social media? Well, today's guest, Mr. Dylan Hattem, has the answers. We dive into lots of questions around social media, around Twitter, Facebook, when to post, how to post, setting goals, and all that stuff. Check it out in this episode of TWiP Talks. All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of TWiP Talks. I'm here with a social media marketing extraordinaire dude. His name is Dylan Hattem. And Dylan, I'm going to let him explain what he does and how we kind of came to this particular conversation. But part of his claim to fame is he found this prodigy, this photographer prodigy. His name is Ryan Perillo. Who you may have seen online, who has gazillions of followers and all that. So Dylan is working with Ryan to kind of hone his superpowers online and do really cool things. So we're going to talk about that, Dylan. So welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, man. This is exciting. You've seen the notes that I sent over. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. This is near and dear to my heart. Folks that listen to TWiP know that half of my brain is photography and the other half is marketing and business and that sort of stuff. So I was really excited to do this conversation with you. But let's dive in. So social media. So this is not about cameras and pixels and software and Micro Four Thirds versus mirrorless and all this. This is about once you have the work, how do you build up that follower base, and how do you and what's the best way and what are the wrong way? So first, let's talk about new media versus old media versus social media. So let me set the stage. So old media, I think of as magazines and newspapers and billboards and all that stuff. That's old media. It's hard to track, very expensive, all that. New media, I think of as banner ads and commercials on YouTube and that kind of stuff. It's kind of new media. And then social media is obviously the Facebooks, the Pinterests, the Periscope, Snapchat, all that stuff. That's new media. And I feel like you're playing in the new media or social media / new media area. Can you what do you think about this? I mean, what's your perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I think just to give everyone a background, not sure if you saw the last talk that we gave. Again, my name is Dylan Hattem, and about a year and a half ago, I was introduced to a 15-year-old photographer. I thought his work was absolutely incredible. And from there, I asked him and his parents if they wanted to take his hobby into a career. And so since then, what I've been doing is trying to get as much exposure to Ryan as possible. And then from there, reached out to different brands and photo workshops, Photo Plus, to solidify him as not only just a hobbyist, but as a real photographer. Mm-hmm. So what I did and what it really merges well into this question in terms of social media, new media, old media is what I really wanted to do was try to get as much publicity as possible. And so where everyone's eyeballs right now when it comes to new media and social media, it really is on Instagram. And so what I wanted to do was go ahead and get as many eyeballs as possible to his Instagram account. And then from there, I could say, you know what, we've proven that there are so many people that are interested in his work. Now we can go out and do digital media and old media. And so I think all of it is really important. What I wanted to do is really focus on social media first, which could prove the fact that he is a great photographer and there's 100,000 people around the world who agree. And then from there, be able to walk into meetings and say, here's how we've proven the first part of his eye as a photographer. Now can we get into the talks and work and do digital media stuff or some out-of-home billboards, which we've done as well.
Now, how has this changed for a photographer? So if you rewind back and we look back, say, I don't know, 20 years ago or whatever, there was a very different. I mean, first of all, everything was different, right? And there were limiting ways that you could actually reach your audiences. So, for example, you create a print 20 years ago, maybe a couple hundred people might see it. If you're really aggressive, you can get a gallery show going. Maybe a couple thousand people might see it. Maybe a couple people may purchase it. Or if it's amateur stuff, your family might see this great landscape you did, but that's it, right? Fast forward to today, millions of people can see it instantly from seconds after you press the button. So that's a lot of power, right? So it's a lot of power and a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure for photographers. How should photographers these days be looking at, okay, how do I get up to where Dylan is taking Ryan? Like, how do I focus on just Instagram? Do I dive into Facebook and put all my effort there and figure out Facebook ads and all that? Should I be on Twitter? How do you figure out what it is you should be focused your efforts on?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a tough question, and I can only speak from what I'm doing currently with Ryan. What we do may be different from what other people are doing. An analogy I can give is if you look at like models nowadays, a lot of models right now, what they're being asked to do is get the following first, and then they can go ahead and get the jobs, versus them just being picked off the street by a random agent and saying, I think you can do well, let's go get you into castings, where now they need the following first, and then they can go and get the gigs.
Yeah. So it's beyond that. You see the model on the beach, or the pretty girl on the beach, and the photographer, the stereotype is the photographer goes up to her and says, look at your face, you're the next insert supermodel name. Right. So those days are over. Now it might be pretty girl on the beach, and he says, oh, how many followers do you have on Instagram?
And I think photography definitely, that's not for all cases, but with photography, it definitely gives a leg up, because the access that everybody has to photography now, you have iPhones, you have introductory cameras, point and shoot, SLRs. Everyone's a photographer. Everyone in my family right now is a photographer. We all share images on social media. Yeah. And if someone gets a break, the next thing you know, they have 300,000 followers, and they're considered to be an incredible photographer.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens then? So that's the new metric. So followers it's not the metric, it's a metric now, but it's a very important metric that things are judged by, for better or for worse, because you could be a crappy photographer, but somehow you manage to get 1 million followers, and now you have that weight. So though you don't have the skills, brands are now looking at you and saying, you know what? 1 million people like him, so I'm gonna get behind that. Is that the new dynamic?
There are some instances, where you never know. You could have been written on an article saying, check out these great images of New York City or in Paris, and you're linked as one of the first people on it because you took one incredible photo. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, that article has been shared 1 million times, and you now have 75,000 new followers off of that. Yeah. And now you're considered to be a great photographer because you took one good picture.
Yeah. And now you're a media outlet, kind of, right?
So then brands come to you, and this is like the branding side of things versus going down like the art gallery side is you have brands saying, okay, I need a photographer who's going to take incredible pictures of Paris. So you're doing travel for Paris. You're the tourism board for Paris. What they want is really good. Also want there to be very authentic. They want the photographer and his viewers to be authentic as well. And so what they can say is, we don't want this to just come from us. We also want you to share these images with your followers. Yeah. So if you have great images and you also have a big following, you have a really big leg up compared to someone who takes the exact same quality of images, but they may not necessarily have the following.
Yeah, it's the old cliche: if a tree falls in the forest and it makes a sound, and no one's there to hear it, does it actually make a sound? So if you're a photographer and you create outstanding, insanely inspiring work and no one sees it, did you actually create that work?
Yeah, and it's a good way if you do have the following, you can really say like, look, there are 100,000 people who agree with my work. Mm-hmm. And so it's another tool to bring to a meeting. So like when I go into meetings on behalf of Ryan, or if he's joining me, I definitely bring his portfolio book. We have a Pixma Pro one. We print out all of his stuff, 13 by 19. I bring that and they say, okay, this is great. I then say, he's 16. They say, that's really cool. And then I also say, he also has been written up in these publications and he has 100,000 followers. So it's not like if you just have one of those things, you're going to win all these big clients. You really want to have an arsenal of tools that you could walk into a room and say, here's how I've proven myself and here's everything I'm working with.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas the next guy walks into the same meeting and he may have outstanding work, but not those other two data points in there. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's great. But how many followers do you have again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it stinks. I
Hmm.
mean, I know tons of photographers who have not a crazy amount of followings, but their images are like, whoa, these are really incredible.
Yeah.
If they've been shooting for a while, they definitely have a leg up and people already know that they're qualified and that they can shoot. But if they're new photographers, it's sort of like, okay, what really makes you different from everyone else? Because I see these other people who have amassed these huge followings. Why hasn't that happened to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, another thing, just for the listeners, it's important to know what your goals are, and I want to transition to that in a second because having followers, we're talking about followers as kind of the new metric and currency online, which is true. But if your goals as a photographer, you don't care about followers, and you're an artist and you're just creating work for yourself and maybe a few select friends, all bets are off, right? None of this stuff matters. We're talking about the kind of marketing and building up yourself as a force online that attracts high-end brands that want to spend money with you.
Yeah, so I see that you have two buckets. One is sort of the brand work that you're working with, and you want to be able to say, I take great images, and I also have a really incredible following. The other side of things is more of like the fine art world. So right now, Ryan and I are working with different galleries, and they don't care how many followers he has, because if someone's going to pay $5,000, $10,000 for a print, they want to know, where else is your work being held? What exhibitions have you been a part of? And so they don't really care about the following, because they want to know, are you trusted in the fine art world? Your 100,000 followers isn't necessarily going to translate to a $5,000 or $10,000 print.
Correct. Yeah, which is interesting because that's a good segue into this next question. So if we look at this stuff, I look at followers in a lot of ways. There's different calibers of follower, right? So you could have 1 million people following you, and half of them are robots. Or you could have 1 million real people following you, or you could have 1 million robots following you. It's still 1 million. That number is still 1 million. How do people do brands care about that, or are brands still kind of oblivious to it, and they're like, oh, 1 million is 1 million, that's a big number, I can show my boss and justify the spend? What do you think?
I think a good example is if you look at a recent campaign I saw by Amazon. They're trying to promote their Kindle. So Amazon, I'm not entirely sure what they're doing in the offline world, but Amazon, if you go to Amazon.com, they needed a photo for the Kindle. So my friend, actually, Jerm Cohen, helped take these images. And what happened was, they not only wanted really good content to put on there, but they also wanted Jerm and his other friends to go in and post those images on their outlets as well.
Right.
And so you're really hitting your viewers from all different angles.
Yeah. But do brands, how do they track that? Are they doing like a conversion tracking? Like, okay, Ryan has X million followers. We did a campaign with Ryan, and we, based on the short link that we gave, that we were driving traffic to from Ryan, we got this many conversions, therefore it was a good spend. Do they get to that level of minutia?
Yeah, so it really depends on the individual campaign and what the goals are. I know some people who will get paid per like, or get paid per comment.
Really?
Other people,
that's so crazy. That's crazy.
Other people are getting paid per post. So they just want you to post 2 times. You post 2 times, you get X amount of money. They don't really care about what kind of engagement. What I think you'll see moving down the line is, especially for like direct response focused campaigns, you're going to want to see an actual conversion event. So I'm posting an image on behalf of a retail client. I'm then saying, go check out the link in my bio. You put a special link in that bio that can track how many people actually click from your specific URL, and then you get paid from there. So it really all depends, like, what budget is a client trying to spend? Awareness budget or DR budget?
Yeah. See, this is fascinating, because as this conversation proceeds, I'm seeing that you're like a next generation agent in a lot of ways. A tech savvy, social media savvy, next generation agent. And I know a lot of photographers that are listening to this, they're like, well, how do I get a Dylan? So you are like, when you're at that level with that number of followers, and this is in the outline too that we were going through. When you're at that level, it comes down to, in a lot of ways, do I want to be spending all my time sitting in front of the computer, posting, doing this? I mean, notwithstanding Instagram, because you're out and about doing all this stuff, but do I want to be managing my social media presence online? Or do I actually want to be out shooting and thinking up new shots and all that? How do you reconcile that? How do you manage your time spend on each one of these things?
Yeah, so I think in terms of the actual posting and content creation, you want to hold on to that as much as possible. Mm-hmm. I'll never give someone else Ryan's password. In fact, I don't even have Ryan's password to his Instagram account.
Good. Keys to the kingdom.
Yeah. So what you're seeing though is there are agencies that are doing this. So if you look at a company like Niche, Niche, they work with influencers. If you work with, or if you see a company like Laundry Service, they're doing the same thing. Also another one like Street Dreams Mag, which I help work with them as well. All very good friends. They started as a publication that did quarterly magazines. And now brands are saying, wow, you're showing this incredible content. You have this relationship with all these photographers. Do you think you can help run an ad campaign for us? So just recently, you'll see that Iceland Air came to us and said, we want to send a few of your guys to Iceland. Can you post content about your experiences there? So my friend Steve Irby went, my friend Eric Veloso, they're both co-founders of Street Dreams Mag. They went over to Iceland, had a great time, and they posted images from their travels there. That's and cool. They're authentic. People like them. It's not Iceland Air saying, come to Iceland. It's two of the coolest people that I know going there. Yeah. And if the two coolest people I know are going there, then other people are going to want to go there as well.
Totally. And that right there, I think, speaks to, I don't know, the zeitgeist of where mindset here, not just in America, but in the world in general. It used to be, I would say, whatever, many years ago, that, okay, they spend these gazillions of dollars on these ad campaigns. You get professional photographers to fly to Iceland, and you get these beautiful, gorgeous National Geographic type shots and all that, but now I would argue that, we're in kind of the age of YouTube and Instagram and all that. We still want to see great imagery, of course, but we want to see it through the eyes of our peers and through people that are like us, not some faceless, gazillion-dollar photographer. I want to see it through this dude that I can also hashtag mention that might even respond to me, right? Do you agree with that?
Definitely. And what brands are also seeing is, so again, going back to how accessible photography is right now and how many good photographers there are, you'll see that you have this old school photographer who is getting paid $100,000 to do this crazy shoot, when I could argue that if you gave me half that budget and let me send Ryan out into the wild, he could take images that are just as incredible as the other photographer. And at the same time, we can also try to work in a deal where he can post the content to his page as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that is amazing. All right, I want to wrap this up. I know you got to go in a couple minutes. Just two more questions. So monetization. So you mentioned, numbers briefly there. Monetization of your followers. So like what's the magic number? Like you're a photographer. I know these are loaded questions, right? So you're a photographer. The photographer's like, hey, I got 20,000 followers. That should be worth something, right? Can I go approach Nike?
Yeah. So great question. Because this is so new to everyone, no one's really figured out the exact value. So I know some people who, let's say they have, like Ryan, they have 100,000 followers. Mm-hmm. If you catch them on a good day and you're selling a pair of boots, you can maybe send, not Ryan, because we generally don't like to do stuff for free, but you can say, hey, I have a free pair of boots if you post a picture. So right there, that's a free pair of boots. Oh, that's great. But that pair of boot is only worth $150. At the same time, you can have a company that's much bigger and say, hey, I want you to post 2 times and I'll give you anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000.
Yeah.
So that really depends. What you don't want to get stuck in, though, is just being an influencer, because ultimately some of these social media outlets are going to die. Yeah. And you want to be able to live on. And I think we spoke about this last time Ryan and I were on your show. But if something were to happen tomorrow and these media outlets were to shut down, what are you going to do next when you go into a gallery or to a brand and you say, all my followers are gone?
Right.
And they want to know, so what else have you done besides that?
Right.
So that's why, again, the followers is just one arsenal. Some people, they're making livings off of their following.
Mm-hmm.
That is the coolest thing ever. More power to them. I think you need to have a really strong following, 300, 400, 500, 600,000 to really step into that area.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But on that topic there, yeah, what I was thinking of when you were talking was, can you imagine the two different conversations you're walking into? I don't know, some big company that wants some big brand having a meeting, and part of your conversation is, oh yeah, I have 100,000 followers on Instagram, and that eyes get big when you say that, right? But that same person going in there and saying, oh, or the next guy going in and says, yo, I got 1 million followers on MySpace. Probably not so good, right? So
yeah, and there's always someone who's going to have a bigger following. That's why you need to really find a way to differentiate yourself, whether it's your style or whether it's, in Ryan's instance, his age is a big difference.
Yeah.
People like to know that he's young. He can also maybe connect with a younger audience. He has a different point of view. So the followers are great. Again, it's only one tool in your tool shed.
All right. Last question here. Followers. Is it an aggregation of all your number? Like when you say I have 1 million followers or 100,000 followers, do you say I have 100,000 followers on Instagram? Or are you saying I have 50 on Instagram, 50 on Facebook? In other words, the number that you give to the brand is the sum total of all the people following on all networks, or do you pick one?
Yeah, so I think it really is broken out by each individual one, where if a brand is asking you for your follower count, it's being broken out on different line items. So Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook.
And then a sum total at the bottom. All these together equals this photographer's reach.
Yeah, because they want to know your reach. So take a look at digital media. Mm-hmm. So publishers like ESPN, they need to sell ad space. They have web, they have mobile, they have tablet. We'll just say those three for now, and there's a billion others. Yeah. If a client says, what's your total reach? And they say our total reach is 30 million people a month, and they're trying to spend against that 30 million. And next thing you know, that 30 million, they actually only want to serve against people on tablets. Then that's not really helpful.
Right. Yeah, interesting. This is so interesting. All right, let's wrap this up so you can go on and socialize, on social media. Where should people go to connect with you, and where should they go to check out Ryan's work and all that stuff?
Yeah, you can check out my work on Instagram. It's DHATTEM as in Mary, and definitely check Ryan's work out. Ryan Perilla. He's got a bunch of articles online if you want to check them out. And if you also want to see some of his work, you can check out his Instagram. It's Novice, Novess.
Awesome, man. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. This has been, we only got through half the outline. I feel like there's so much stuff to talk about. And I know if I'm anything like my audience, photographers in general, this is like ripe for you. Like I could see fast forward a year from now, you will probably have 5 people working for you representing other photographers. Yeah, I can see it happening.
Encourage people to shoot me an email. It's on my Instagram. Let me know if you have questions. I'm more than happy to help out and sort of drive people into the right direction. I don't really know how much my information is worth, but I'm more than happy to help anybody out.
It's worth a lot. Cool, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Take care.